Gonna make a very cute fall decorative piece for about $5. This one's pretty easy, you guys. So they have these little pumpkin trays, bowls, whatever you want to call them, at the Dollar Tree. So I grabbed 2 of them. One's for another project, but we use this clear-ish one, I should say. Now I needed a flat base on the bottom because we are going to adhere it to a tray. So in order to do that, I just grabbed some cardboard, traced around it. We're going to cut it out. You guys can use like a thicker cork board, tag board, whatever you want. The lid from a shoebox, as long as the pumpkin fits. So yeah, we're just going to cut out that pumpkin. And now we're going to glue it. So I did use tacky glue and hot glue. You guys have seen me do this in my videos before. The regular glue, tacky glue, E6000, whatever you use, that's going to dry in time and it's going to create a really, really hard bond. And then I use my hot glue in the areas I don't put the other glue, just so I get that instant bond, so I can continue crafting and not have to wait forever. And there we go. Now we're going to start painting. You guys can use any kinds of paint you want to use with this. I am using some chalk and clay based paint, but you can use acrylics or any of like those. I think they're apple tree and different brands that you can find, folk art, at any craft store. You won't be able to blend as well using the technique I'm about to, though, with any kind of acrylic. So you'll just have to kind of mix and blend if you do use a different type of paint. But with the mineral paint, it dries relatively fast, so I have my hairdryer here, and I'm going to kind of use where it's drying as a guide. So where it's getting lighter, that's where the chalk paint is dry. And before it's fully dry, I'm going to use where the wet areas are as kind of my base for adding in some shading and some depth and shadows. So I went in with a navy blue. If you do have DIY paint, this is Bohemian Blue. So all those areas that were still wet, that's where I applied that. We're going to partially dry the blue. And then we're going to go back over it lightly with orange. So the areas that are still kind of wet with that blue are actually going to blend with the orange. And then the areas that I hit really quick and dried super fast are going to stay. And don't worry, when you paint, usually everything looks like a hot mess until it doesn't. So again, going over with the blow dryer. This time I'm going to use the lighter spots where it dried as my guide for my maroon color that I'm adding in. Cherry picked. I guess it's more of like a plum. And again with the orange. I'm going in with my weathered wood, which is a dark grayish, almost kind of a brown. You can use any dark color you want. but just kind of going down all those crevices of the pumpkin. And I did add a little more navy on that side because I did want a little more shading on that area. So all these layers that we're building up are going to work with us to create that texture. Okay, now we're going to get it really dry. So as you can see before, when I was painting up and down. Now we're going to go across. And what this is going to do is it's going to hit all the high points of those brush strokes from those layers we just put on. And you guys don't obviously have to get this this detailed either. I mean, you could just slap a few colors on and call it a day too. It's all about what your preference is and what you like and what you don't like. Again, I'm really into depth and texture, so this is why I paint the way I paint. And I'm just taking some of that orangey water too and just kind of adding it, thinning it down and blending it a little bit. Just some touches, and then I'm going to go over it with some polyacrylic. So while that's drying, we're going to take this tray. This tray also can be found at the Dollar Tree. They have gold, they have copper, they have bronze. They've got a lot of different cute clear trays as well. But I'm going to go over it with my darker brown, my weathered wood. I start with just the paint on the one side, and then I'm going to draw in some of that water. This is going to kind of thin it out and almost make it look almost like a glaze. And we're going to have it thinner in some areas, heavier in others. And then we'll just take a towel and we're just going to blot really quickly. Not wipe, just blot certain areas. So that's going to pick up some of that glaze, quote unquote, that we made. It's just another technique to age stuff, really. And once that's dry, I'm going to grab my baby wipe here and I'm going to go over all the high points. Hit other little areas as well, just to kind of bring out that undercolor. And when that is where I want it, then I took my polyacrylic, took it outside, did one coat of polyacrylic. So while that's drying, we're back at the pumpkin. So I took my white wax and we're just gonna go over the whole thing. Well, half of it at first. I'm gonna wipe that back. What this is gonna do is it's actually gonna soften the pumpkin a little bit. And you guys don't have to take it as far as this either. I mean, however you want to paint the pumpkin and however you like it, I mean, definitely go for it. You have to love your piece. You have to like it. I just like to mess around with waxes. So I'm really rubbing off the high points, bringing that orange through. Then I'm going to grab my dark and decrepit powder, just adding a little bit of shading on the one side. And then we're just gonna lightly brush that off. It'll stick down where that white wax was though. Now I grab my Art Alchemy. This is my Fire Spark, I believe it's called. I don't know, I get the names confused. Anyway, it's their orange wax. Art Alchemy waxes, you guys have heard me talk about. They're kind of iridescent, so if you look at them from one angle, you'll see hints of gold. Other angles, you'll see hints of orange. And we're just kind of rubbing that here and there. And then I grabbed my gold gliders wax. We're gonna hit the stem with that and then around the edges and then just kind of sporadically throughout the pumpkin. We're not adding a whole lot of gold. Because like I said, that Art Alchemy at certain angles, that will already look kind of gold. But there we go. Grab my jute. I wanted something around the stem. Because the stem is kind of wonky, you guys, I wanted to secure it in the back as well as the front. Otherwise, it would just slide off. So I glued it to the tray and then I added some Spanish moss. As you guys can see, I accidentally deleted that portion of the video. But again, the Spanish moss can also be found at the Dollar Tree. And now we're gonna make a bow. So most of this ribbon did come from Dollar Tree as well. Some of it I did have from Walmart. Just kind of grab what you have if you choose to have a bow on your piece. And then I just grabbed some jute, pinched it in the middle, and then we're going to tie it tightly in the back. And we'll just cut off that excess jute. And then we'll glue it. How cute is that, you guys? And now I am going to add a hanger. I couldn't decide if I wanted to hang this piece or if I wanted it to sit with my other fall decor. So I decided just to add a hanger with some jute just in case. That way it's versatile and I can move it around if I choose to. Use tacky glue and hot glue again. And here it is all finished. A couple stills of it hanging. And then there will be a couple stills of it sitting. You guys can see all that texture we built in with that paint and all the waxes. And that's it. Have a good night.